I feel like it's been a really long time since we had our last pre-production meeting of Right Angle. Did we skip a month or two?
It's been an entire week, Scott. I don't know what to tell you, but yeah, a whole week, and it feels like nearly 7 days.
I was down for most of the week. I was just flatlined.
Really?
Oh, were you really?
Well, do tell.
Oh,
I just couldn't wake up. I was just like completely, utterly blown out, tired, no matter how much sleep I got. I think it just comes a point when you just get like just completely overloaded.
Yeah.
Just tried to struggle in and finish some more moving back to America. I just couldn't do it. So I'm trying to make up for him now.
Here's the secret. I have found that I can doze off while watching a very interesting movie. I can doze off while reading a book or news stories that I'm interested in. I cannot doze off while scrolling TikTok. I cannot.
He
dozed off while I was talking about it.
Obsession had slacked off a bit, but I guess not.
Bill actually dozed off while I was talking about the thing that I couldn't doze off while doing.
No, I heard everything. You said, Steve.
Sure. That's and by the way, Steve is the guy in the how do we describe that shirt? What color is that? Is that gray?
Yeah, it's kind of a green blue.
Green blue? Okay. So I'm Scott, and I'm wearing the plaid. For you people who watch the show, for some reason, can never get straight which one is Steve and which one is Scott.
For those of you that might be watching the show in black and white on older internet models, we thought we would give you the home colors here.
You know, this is...
I'm Scott
trying to
Ott,
remember.
and this is 60 Minutes.
That's right. Later, Ted Turner will have these shows colorized so that you'll be able to enjoy them on TBS late at night.
I think
when that was a thing in the late 80s, mid 80s, whatever that was, the first one they put out colorized was Casablanca for some reason. That had to be made better. And Rick's white tuxedo jacket had a faint pink hue. And
nice.
How did that, at what point during the colorization process, which is totally unnecessary to begin with, but at what point did the colorization process you just go, pink, whatever?
Now in 8-bit Technicolor. I mean, it was like... So anyway, what was my point? Oh, Bill is awake now. He managed to get here, and that's good. I think he sleeps in that chair. Bill also is hosting 2 episodes this week in an effort to keep him alert. And Lord knows we need more of those.
Yeah. So I know this is getting to be something that we probably covered once or twice, but there is a grim milestone coming up, at least for me anyway. March 18th, which will be this Thursday. On March 18th of last year, which was a Wednesday, I was doing a Stratosphere Lounge show at 6:30. And somebody in the live comment section told me that California was locking down at midnight, and I should be home by then. I said, what? Yep. Now we've done so many COVID shows and we've done all of this stuff. So what I thought we would do for that to me is the beginning of it. That was when it's like, okay, it's on. That's when nobody's allowed to leave the house. I was, of course, essential personnel. No fooling, I really was. It's anybody. Like internet media, President Trump needed an emergency podcast. I was on the ready alert. I was on the 5-minute alert. But what I would like to do with this one, I think could be actually an interesting point, would be what would you tell yourself? What would you tell your March 18, 2020 self if you could go back in time on March 18, 2021 and tell them about how the year went out? What would you tell them? What would you tell yourself? What would you tell yourself to be afraid of? What would you tell yourself to be worried about? What would you tell yourself to be like, okay, this is going to be nonsense? I mean, this could be fun things like, first of all, buy toilet paper stock. That's the first thing. But in a serious vein, I think it'd give us a chance to, aside from the experts who've been so helpful, it'd give us a chance to really just talk about what this year has meant to each one of us in terms of our personal lives and how it's affected us and how it's, and how things didn't turn out the way that we thought they would. I'm glad I did. I did 30, I think, Chronosphere Lounge shows every day.
Yeah.
I think I did 30 of them. And the first ones, you could just tell you're like, I personally wasn't scared. I really, truly wasn't. But I thought, okay, this could really be the corpses on the street kind of thing. Really, really thought that was a possibility. And so these are the kind of things I wanted to talk about. I think it'd be a good thing.
I think you watch too many of those kind of movies, like where there are corpses on the street.
Who wouldn't watch those movies?
Which leads me to actually another interesting point, and maybe you could bring that up, Scott, because this is something. This is probably maybe I'll do this for today's Moving Back to America show. What I think is remarkable when I look at all of history, and I know there are going to be a lot of people going to be like completely mortified by this, but with as a general rule, at least in my lifetime anyway, the worst case never happens. It doesn't even come close to happening. Yeah. The ozone hole is going to kill us all. Acid rain is going to kill us all. We're going to run out of fuel. We're overpopulated. We're going to run out of minerals. We're going to run out of water. We've got killer bees. We've got Y2K. We've got all of these things that are just like, here they come, extinction level events, and they never, ever, ever come close to the worst case scenario.
And the doomsayers would say that's because we warned you about them, and so therefore people took extra efforts to, go fracking and stuff like that, so that we wouldn't run out of oil and whatever.
That's kind of the argument that I have an elephant gun, and that's why you don't see any elephants in Sherman Oaks. I'm not entirely sure I buy that argument.
But I'm just saying that's the argument that they would make. They would, of course, because it's good to have these kind of people. And in fact, I actually believe, like, if you have an organization and a board of directors, you need a guy like that on your board. You need the guy.
No, it's good. No, absolutely, it's good. You definitely need a guy like that on your board. And I guess there's no point in having it. It'll be fine, guy. I guess.
Yeah. Well, that
doesn't really help you.
That's me.
And yet, that's how it usually turns out. Obviously, when I say that the worst case scenario never happens, it's certainly the worst case scenario if somebody you love died in the COVID pandemic.
Yeah.
I get that. But on a larger level, these things that we are like existential threats don't seem to happen. And I'm talking about you, Smod, who've been teasing me for 5 years, 6 years now.
What have I told you, Bill? Yellowstone caldera is the extinction level event you can trust. Yeah,
but I live to the west of Yellowstone. I'm going to get the absolute rag end of Yellowstone. I'm going to get Yellowstone after it's been around the world. Now, if I lived in New York City, now I'd have a case.
Yeah, sure.
I'm going to have hours, if not days, to prepare myself. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, you want to go out.
What's that bright light?
Yeah, when I was a kid growing up in St. Louis, I always figured, Missouri was home to a bunch of Minuteman missiles. I think they've all been removed now under START. But I always figured if I saw the missiles go up, I'd get in the car, drive north about half an hour, and just park in front of McDonnell Douglas and wait.
Yeah, and just watch the sky. Yeah, exactly. See if you could see it coming in. But anyway, so that's the first one. And then I think probably the second one will be, I think we're going to have to redefine Florida man. And I think the person who is single-handedly destroying Florida man as we know and love him is Rick DeSantis. Ron. Thank you. Ron DeSantis, who not only handled the COVID-19 thing with extraordinary acuity, now is bringing Florida into Florida. He's having the state of Florida looking into passing legislation against conservative shadow banning on YouTube. He's talking about legislation about saying that, if you're a Florida resident and somebody is using an algorithm to manipulate your data, you have to agree to that. You have to tick a box or something like that. And he's going after them on the state level. And I've always felt that the only entity in the United States of America that has the power to take on something that the federal government doesn't is a state or a collection of states. It's the only thing that has got anything like the muscle necessary for this.
That's an interesting question. Like, what would I do if I were on Facebook still and a box popped up and said, would you like us to show you things we think you want to see, or would you like to be totally in control of the things that you see?
That's essentially what DeSantis is proposing.
Yeah, I mean, Twitter, before we started taping today, Twitter showed me this little pop-up that said, I'm in control. And it asked me if I wanted to see relevant ads or less relevant ads. So
I would like to not be banned. And I think this is probably a good point, as good a time as any to talk about just this latest, wrench torque on our viewing numbers, which went from consistently 16, 17, 20, 22 down to 7, 8. I mean, overnight again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again. They just plain cut us in half again.
Now, by the way, we're now way over 6,000 rumbles over on Rumble. So
are those total views?
I don't know what a rumble is still. I think it's like a like. I think it's like a thumbs up. But we went from having like 5 a couple of weeks ago to having 6,000, and we have earned upwards of 12 cents.
Is that right?
So 12.5 cents.
Yeah.
12 cents.
And I'm convinced that's either because we're not making the right kind of cat videos and cute babies, or
because those are making $4 or $5.
Or because the only way to really make money on Rumble is to turn over to them all of like essentially they become the agent for your YouTube monetization, and you pay and you get a percentage of that.
Yeah.
It's not real clear on Rumble. And by the way, those of you who are like raving fans of Rumble, if you look behind the scenes and try to figure out actually how the sucker works, it's really difficult we're hosting most of our videos now on Rumble. We put them on YouTube, but then on our website, we're streaming them from Rumble. We can't stop them from doing post-roll videos. So after our video's over, another video pops up, whatever they decide. And we really haven't figured out what the monetization policy is. If you understand it, go ahead and post in the comments below.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And explain to us how that works.
I just went to the Rumble main page and they said viral. There's a box that says this is a viral video.
Oh,
I looked
always
at
wondered
it,
how to make those viral videos.
and it's got 101 views.
Rumbles or views?
No, 101 Rumble views.
I think Rumbles is like likes or something. I don't know.
No, it said views.
Yeah, the best thing I've
Athletic Cat
seen
turns out to be table tennis pro, 2,260 views. Yeah, but YouTube would get that YouTube would get that before the counter could recycle.
Yeah. And the one I saw this morning.
Buffer put up the money for this company.
Who did?
Michael Buffer.
I don't know.
Well, you know what? YouTube was nothing before, we're just giving it time.
Yeah, and so Rumble's serving a purpose for us. I mean, we're still on YouTube as far as that goes, and for their pittance of monetization there. But our members are, there are a couple of exceptions to this, but almost all of our programming on BillWhittle.com is now streaming from Rumble, and we also provide a link if you want to. You can click through and go to Rumble and watch our videos there. Thanks to member suggestions, by the way.
That's right. That started off a while ago, didn't it? We've been on there, since by the beginning of the year, I guess?
Yeah, roughly. I can't remember exactly when. So we're going to talk about DeSantis.
Yes.
And
by the way,
on your first episode, on the W episode, I think that we ought to celebrate the anniversary of that moment and refer to it as March 10th.
Why not?
I couldn't think of a more catchy, and the only one that I know of that's catchy is Juneteenth. So
it's the National Karen holiday.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe something else.
Yeah, that's right. That'll be from now on. That'll be National Karen Day.
Karen-teenth. It's got to have a teenth. Just like every scandal has to have a gate, every anniversary like this has to have a teenth.
There we go. All right, Karen-teenth.
Okay. It sounds better when Steve says it. Okay. So speaking of Steve.
It couldn't sound any worse.
Yeah, really. That's the bar was low. Stephen Green also desires passionately to host an episode of Right Angle this week. On what topic?
Yeah. I want to talk about latest example of insanity.
That ought to narrow it down.
Present company excluded?
Yeah, where you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So Seattle's
That's
having
the history
this,
of right angle right there.
Well, yeah, we know what we're doing. Crazy.
Okay,
about
go
it.
ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so Seattle is having a big issue with crime. Believe it or not.
What?
Yeah. Well,
That can't be possible. They banned the police force.
Yeah, they cut all this money out of the police budget. Nearly 200 police officers retired just last year, which was a record. The previous year was like 50 something. They cut all this money out of the budget, and in a totally unrelated development, having nothing to do with any of that, crime is way up. And 911 response times are increasing like every week. They're going up. Although, to be fair, they're down from last summer when they hit 18 minutes in some neighborhoods. And you can probably guess.
But you're not counting how quickly the neighborhood patrols can be on the scene.
Yeah, except again, this will shock you. In another completely unrelated development, those patrols never seem to have materialized.
Well, that is.
They've actually, because of the cuts in funding, when the 911 operator answers, when she used to say, 911, what's your emergency? She now says, 911, what's your general situation? So they don't want to give you the sense that everything's going to happen
we just have
fast.
a few questions for you. First of all, how would you describe your ethnicity? Thank you.
No.
And your economic class? Thank you. Are you calling from an area typical of your economic class at the moment?
Whoa. You back up there, man. You screwed this up right from the start. The first question is, what are your preferred personal pronouns? Let's get this right.
And then somewhere down the list is, on which side of the muzzle are you? I think that would be important to know.
Another important consideration. So
there's a man on the street. It looks like he's having a heart attack. I'll get to that in a minute, sir. But how dare you assume that he wants to be known as a he? Have you asked? No, let me check. Hang on a sec. I'll be right there, sir. I know he can barely breathe here, and I know you're in excruciating pain. But is he and him your preferred pronoun? Hello.
They are having a heart attack. There was a guy on TikTok who said that he just wanted to let the world know that he now identifies as Michael Jackson and that his pronouns are he and he. And then they play a clip of Michael Jackson dancing and he's going, he.
That's great. You just reminded me back on Kids in the Hall, which was just this great Canadian sketch.
I loved it too.
Yeah, I love the kids. Dave Foley had this incompetent doctor that appeared in a number of sketches, just got absolutely everything wrong. Like once he performs an appendectomy on somebody, they take the bandage off and the scar is in the shape of a swastika. Those are just the worst doctor in the world. And at one point, a nurse walks into the room where he's seeing somebody and says, doctor, you're needed in the ER. Somebody's had a cardiac infarction. Well, surely that's a matter for the police.
Okay.
My personal pronoun is Vectron.
Oh, anyway, so
Seattle's having a myocardial infarction. Go ahead.
Just to wrap up real quick. In response to all this, the Seattle City Council is proposing they cut a further $5.4 million out of the police budget.
Well, that'll turn out well. Yeah. No one can predict what will possibly happen in a case like that.
It's unknowable.
Has this really only been going on for about less than 20 minutes?
I'm afraid so. Time slows down often.
Good Lord. I thought we've been at this since last Tuesday.
I think my judgment is impaired with regard to chronology of things now. I'm having a hard time judging time. Okay, and this may explain it. My topic actually may explain it. Today, this is Tuesday the 16th of March. Today, I got my first COVID-19 vaccine. The Pfizer Moderna sequence is going to happen. And so in a couple of weeks, I guess I have to get another. They gave me some paperwork and I've got to notate it and then I have to come back at a certain time. It was at...
Scott, what's happening to your face? Mike, are you growing horns?
It's
and
just
his
always
ears
like
appear
this.
to be sliding off.
But I'll tell you, this is not the topic necessarily, but the topic is basically kind of what are you guys going to do? What have you done? If you've already done it, what was it like? If you haven't done it, what are you waiting for? Kind of thing. Let's just kind of talk through that. But I was impressed. My wife went last week, and then because she's the organized one, she like signed me up so that I could go today. And it was at 8 a.m. And of course, I delayed until the last possible second. I literally arrived exactly at 8 o'clock when I was planning to be about 15 minutes early. And it's at the high school stadium, Eagle Stadium in Allen, Texas, which they spent like $70 million on and had major contracting problems. It's a high school football stadium.
It's in Texas, dude. That's spent money.
Yeah.
So, and then they had to put a lot more money into it because the contractors didn't do it right. But anyway, so I pull into the parking lot and they had the cars doing what they do at Disney to make you think you're moving. So they did a serpentine with the, so if you're at one of the Disney theme parks, they'll do the serpentine line, but it keeps moving the whole time. So it almost never stops. And then you finally pull up to this guy and he looks at your ID and I had an Eventbrite event in my Apple Wallet. So I held up the little QR code so that he could see I had one. He gets a marker and he writes the number 1 on my windshield to let the people up front know that I was getting my first shot. So this is how they do that. And then I pull up and go around another loop and I forget what they asked me. Oh, some guy just handed me this bundle of papers. And then I drive into this tent and this guy steps up and gives me an injection. And at first, I kind of did the instinctual look away when somebody's giving you an injection because you don't want to see it happen. And I thought, oh, heck. And I looked at it, and he stuck me in the arm, and I'm still looking at it. I'm thinking, did he stick me in the arm? Because it doesn't feel like he did anything. And he's like, okay, you're ready to go. Pull over there, sit in your car for about 15 minutes. If you have any adverse reactions.
And if you don't die, you can leave.
That's exactly right. Yes, if you have any adverse reactions, honk your horn or blink your lights, and
or pass out on your horn.
That usually gets it going. Yeah, it's like being a bad lieutenant.
But I was in and out of there, including the whole line and everything, in like 15, 18 minutes, something like that. Like it was just boom, boom, boom. So far as I can tell. No adverse reactions, didn't really feel the shot. My wife had some pain in her arm for a day or two afterward, but she tends to have more reaction to shots than I do. And who knows, maybe by tomorrow this will have changed. So all of that
when
to
the
say,
flesh
I was really
change
impressed
comes.
at how these local people, including the Allen Fire Department and paramedics, and then others who may just be volunteers directing traffic, all had come together, and just that thing was a machine. And I'm thinking, holy cow, they're going to do thousands of these injections today.
Yes, they are. And we figured out that didn't we talk about that
in one town?
That the genius of Disney was that they would keep you in a line that was constantly moving. That people would rather be in a long line that's moving than in a shorter one that doesn't. We talked about that, didn't we? I think we did.
When we were at Disney,
Scott and his lovely wife came to L.A. and I and my lovely wife went to Disneyland together, the four of us, and watching us walk down Main Street, it looked like two elves leading two chimps by the hand. That's what it would look like from any kind of a distance. Yeah.
But anyway, I was just, you hear about it on the news all the time, and they're having all these kind of theoretical discussions about the vaccine or whatever, and people's different demographic groups more or less accepting of it. But when you're actually there and you see how the process works, it's like really a marvel of how smooth that whole thing was. Like it was just like, and although when I did pull up the first guy who scanned my QR code, and then after he was done that, actually he didn't scan it, he just looked at it. But when he was done with that, he goes, just pull straight ahead, and he goes, watch out for that car in front of you. He said, she's having problems. So apparently the lady in front of me was a little, like she stopped in the middle of an intersection, and she was just, but she was fine. She got through it. Anyway, it was I was impressed.
You should be. Well, first of all, it's done on a local level. Secondly, it was done in Texas. Sounds like you moved through that line at what you might call warp speed.
That's a catchy
No, I'm serious.
phrase.
I'm serious. That I think that needs to be said every day. I really do.
It was like a drive-by shooting. I mean, I hardly pumped the brakes, and the needle was in my arm, and I was off.
You know, when I dip my physical every year, they've got to check my thyroid, my cholesterol levels. And so I got to give a couple of vials of blood. And even before that, when I was a regular blood donator, I was doing that a couple times a year. I never watch them stick the needle in because I'm afraid I'm going to flinch. But once you don't want to ruin it. But once the needle is in, I just find it fascinating to watch that there's a piece of steel in your body and that blood is coming out of it in a controlled fashion, and then they pull the little thing out and it's done. You're done bleeding. It's awesome.
And it's the color of frickin' Hershey syrup too, until it gets some real oxygen on there, because they're pulling venal blood, not arterial blood. I would hope.
Yeah. When I was in
you
college
get a physical
and
every
selling
year,
my
Steve?
plasma.
Yeah, I go more often than that.
Yeah, 3 times a year, twice a year. I don't know.
I go every day.
Every day.
I get a complete physical every day.
Well, that's almost as frequently
chances.
as you get haircuts,
including an MRI and a colonoscopy. Colonoscopy is mostly voluntary. It's kind of a recreational thing.
After a generous cavity search.
Yeah.
Oh, wait. Was the search generous or the cavity? I don't want to.
Many times have I said to these people, that wasn't thorough enough. Do it again.
Do it again.
Wait a minute. That wasn't
doc.
Wait a minute. That wasn't a very good cough. Let me do that again. Oh, I'm
Something
sorry.
tells me you're not here for your health.
There are ladies watching this show, and
well.
we apologize in the most gentlemanly way we can conjure.
Which apparently is hardly at all.
Yeah, not much.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's our shows. That's what I would like to do, and that's what you would like to do. And what you would all like us to do now is stop yammering. We're at less than a half an hour. This may be a new record.
Wow. Maybe, we got a little bit of a later start today, and I wonder if we need to start taping our pre-show.
What was your topic again, Steve?
What am I talking about? Oh, Seattle Police
Crime.
Department.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Tell your friends to ignore our low numbers on YouTube and watch us at BillWhittle.com. And that way we will get more rumbles or bumbles or whatever they are. We will get more of them. And we will also get more members. And we're grateful to those folks who have joined. And thank you so much for that. If you haven't yet seen some of our new programs, including Bill Whittle's Moving Back to America series and Bill and Zoe Rachel doing the Virtue Signal, make sure you catch up on the archive of those. I think you're really going to enjoy it. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for making this happen.